Hey guys, David here with Made to Travel. I got the Sprinter van back here, doing a little more work on it today. What I'm working on now is the rear struts. Super simple, anyone can do it. The parts are kind of expensive. They run about $150 to $200 Canadian per shock, but it's a really good upgrade to do, especially if you're doing a campervan conversion. You're gonna be having all that weight in the back of the van, and if you don't have the proper support, it's gonna be swinging all over the place. Wind's gonna come up. You're gonna be passing semis on the highway. It's just not gonna be fun to drive at all. So we are upgrading, and I'll show you what a bad strut looks like, because ours were brutal condition. All right, so I'm just gonna show you the difference between new shocks and old shocks and how to tell when yours are ready to go or need to be replaced or whatever. So this is the old shock, as you can tell, rusted. You'll see moisture kind of build up on the outside. If you're really curious, just pop them out, and that's what a bad shock looks like. It's supposed to go back up, and it's supposed to be hard to push down. This one just collapses like nothing, and then it stays collapsed. It doesn't go back out. Like this one, brand new shock. I'm putting a lot more force down on this. It's just going down. That's gotta be like 10, 20 times as hard. And then it slowly goes back up. So that's what a proper shock should look like. And that's how you tell when your shocks are bad and need to be replaced. This is one of the struts that I actually just took out. New strut that's going in, breaker bar, couple wrenches, two 21mm sockets. Make sure you have one deep socket, 21mm wrench. These are the two bolts that you're going to be undoing that hold on the strut, and some PV blaster. If yours were as rusted as mine, you're definitely going to want some PV blaster. Blast on, soak the bolts maybe a day or two before, even if you have the chance. That'll help get rid of some of that rust, and then you're also going to want like a little wire brush to try and clean up those bolts before you put them back on. But yeah, so the van's jacked up here on one side. I already got one shock out. I'm going to go ahead, do the other side, and show you guys where the bolts are, how to get at them. They're a little bit tricky, so it's kind of nice to have two people, but you can also do it if it's just you. Also, side note, as you can see, the van is looking absolutely horrendous. So it was plasti dipped, but me and Kaylee have been working with a pressure washer trying to get the plastic dip off, and it is such a pain to get off. Like we've tried everything, looked everything up online, and it is so hard. We just resorted to turning the pressure washer up real high and just blasting it off. So that's why it looks so bad, if you're wondering, but hopefully it'll look better soon. We're doing some rust treatment, and then hopefully we're gonna coat it with a nice new paint job, get it looking nice and snazzy. All right, so we're just up underneath the vehicle here. I'm right around the back side, and as you can see, shock is right there. And you can see the moisture kind of build up on the outside, the darker spots. That's one indicator that it's leaking. There's one bolt right back there, right here. And there's one bolt right down underneath the stabilizer bar, right there. Those are the only two holding the shock on, so all you have to do is get those out. 21mm, they're on there pretty good, but make sure you use some PV blaster or some kind of lubricant that'll help get that corrosion away from the bolt. Day 2 here on the shock replacement. Did the rear shocks last night on the van, and everything went pretty smooth. Probably took about an hour or so. Really easy thing to do. You don't need a whole lot of mechanical knowledge. No like real special tools, wrenches, sockets, that's about it. I just got the shocks in for the front today actually, which was perfect timing. So now I can do these tonight. One thing about brand is I went with Bilstein just because they were a pretty good deal, reputable company. I've heard good things about them. There's Fox, there's lots of other companies you can go with. Read some reviews, do a little research. I'm sure you'll find one that'll suit your needs. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. The front is going to be a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to take off the front wheels, but again, nothing too hard that anyone with a little mechanical knowledge and a little patience can accomplish. Step number one when you're replacing the front struts or shocks, you want to jack up the van. Makes it a little easier so you don't have to compress the shock when you're putting it back in. You also have to remove the tire to access these shocks on this van. So let me show you the old shock right here. And so you can see that it's bad because there's a bunch of moisture built up right around the base here. This is just a plastic cover, so when we peel this up, I'll show you what's going on there. So all I've done so far is taking the wheel off, and then inside the van, I'll show you what's going on here. So at the passenger footwell, there's a cover right here, and all you need is a flathead screwdriver to just turn this, and then it just pops off. Underneath here, I was actually surprised to see I have a brand new jack, and that's actually where it goes, which I had no idea about. So that's kind of nice to know where that goes. Anyways, there's a bolt up here, and that's what secures the shock on the top end right there. So that's gonna have to be loosened off. And then there's also 4 bolts that I'm gonna have to loosen off on the bottom, which I can show you here. There's 1, 2, and then on the other side, it basically mirrors. So 3, 4 down there, which hopefully you can see there. All right, so this is the old shock, and this is actually why you want to replace your shocks. So this is the nut. This is 24mm nut, sits inside, but like this shock is just like nothing to pull up and down. So it was absolutely toast. That's yeah, brutal. Definitely time to get new ones, that's for sure. This is the new one. So much more difficult to push down, and automatically goes back up nice and smooth. There's a few plastic parts that we're just gonna reuse when putting this back together. So this is just the cover that sits on top. It's just a plastic cover, and there's a small boot, rubber boot, that sits on top like that. So all you're gonna do, hopefully your new shock comes with a new bolt there. Get your old part there, just slide it right over top, and then all that does is protect the shock. Tries to help dust and dirt from getting inside there. Putting your new shock back on, what you want to do is slide it in, but instead of lining up this top bolt into the top of the wheel well, you want to bolt the 4 bolts, the 4 lower bolts here on. And then what you want to do, you want to also grab a couple blocks or something to support this brake assembly, and then you want to collapse it and then let it slide up into place like that. Definitely a much easier way to get this done. Just tightening down this bolt inside here, and one more thing is you're gonna want, mine takes a 7mm Allen key, just right in the center there, and you're gonna want 24mm wrench. So what that's gonna do is hold that and stop it from spinning while you're tightening this down. It's kind of time consuming, but you definitely want this good and tight. All right, right side's done. Time for the left side. I almost have the shock completely out, the old shock. I've undone all the 4 bolts on the bottom. I'm just getting the bolt inside. I just want to show you where it was. You just have to pull up this rubber matting in the footwell, and you'll see it's just right under there. Definitely breaker bar comes in handy. I have a 24-inch one. I don't think I'd be able to do this job without it, because some of those nuts are on there pretty good. So yeah, definitely a tip for you. Buy one, it's worth it. They're only about 40 bucks or so. Both fronts are done, both rears are done. Not one shock on this van was actually good. I think possibly were the original shocks on the vehicle, since this van only has 158,000 kilometers. So quite possibly the original shocks. Can't wait to drive it. It's gonna be such a difference. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment down below, ask me anything. I know sometimes I skip over stuff, so feel free, shoot me a question. I'll answer it as quickly as I can and get back to you. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more content on all this incredible stuff we're doing to this van. I'm so excited. Now that most of the mechanical stuff is done, we're gonna start working on the inside, finally. Hopefully we can get the rest of this plasti dip off, and yeah, also, let me know if you have any videos you want me to make. If you're stuck on something, I would love to help you out. All right, see you in the next one.